Right. So how do you take it from there? Tell me a little bit about the Ramdas experience that you. I think he led you to Maharaji, didn't he? Um, yeah.
Definitely. Not only did he lead me to Maharaji, but I, what I experienced when I met Ramdas actually turned out to be Maharaji himself. That's what I was feeling. It was coming through Ramdas
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
such
Yeah.
intense, extraordinary power. At that point, he had just come back from India from his first trip, and he was just radiating. It was so beautiful. Everybody who came just was, it was like coming out in the sun after like the winter time, it was just so
Mm.
beautiful. Like a real summer, not the English summer.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, so I had heard about him from some friends and they went to see him and I wasn't interested. I just thought, I don't care about American yogis. I want the real thing. So they left. I was living on their land and upstate New York, and they went off to meet
Yeah.
Ramdas, and they were supposed to come back the next day, and they didn't come back for like 2 or 3 days. Uh, and so I was standing in the driveway. I had just come out of the goat shed. We had two goats on the farm.
Yeah.
Madame Blavatsky and Alice Bailey were our two goats. And I had just milked the goats, and I came out, and the car came in down the driveway, this long driveway cutting through a field, and my friend gets out of the car and he turns around and he looks at me, and he had this look on his face, and light was shooting out of him. I mean, I couldn't
Uh,
believe it. I went right down the directions. I'm leaving now, and I ran out to my place. I got my stuff, and I hit
what
the
were you
road.
doing at that? Apart from milking the Theosophist goats, what were you
At that
doing with
time,
yourself at that time?
I
Yeah.
was driving a school bus for the
Uh huh.
local,
Yeah.
and I was just sitting in my cabin, depressed and unhappy. That's what I was
Right.
doing.
Yeah. So you just
And I
did.
was
You
taking
had a day off the driving school bus, or someone has subbed for you, and you went down there.
actually,
That's,
maybe I don't even remember. Maybe
you
it was
drove
on
the
the
school bus
weekend.
down there with the kids.
Huh?
You drove the school bus with the kids down to
Yeah,
see
with the
Ramdas.
kids.
No,
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That would be good.
And they never came back. I don't know what happened
Yeah,
to them.
parents would love you. Or you went to, and you went to Ramdas and you drove all night, I believe. And
Yeah,
in the cold and in the storm,
yeah.
a blizzard or something. And how was it meeting him?
I
What
walked
was the
in the room
experience of
where he
meeting
was
Ramdas?
sitting. I walked in the
Yeah.
room where he was sitting, and at that moment, without a word being spoken, he was actually sitting with his eyes closed in the other corner of the room. Walked in the room, and immediately, absolutely immediately, I knew I had this epiphany, and I knew that whatever it was I was looking for was real. It existed. It was in the world, and you could
Mm,
find it. And that changed my life.
yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. 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 Because before that, it's like this. Yeah,
But
I can really resonate with that because you got to read the books, you got to want to believe it. It's like, yeah, I'd like to believe that Ramakrishna's books are true, right? Like, but
yeah,
it's so outside one's own field of conventional normative perception, right?
yeah,
Growing up as you did or where I did, where there was no spirituality around really,
yeah.
and
Nothing.
no one who had experiences you could talk to you about,
Right.
certainly.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
right,
that was so. But you see, at the time, I thought it was Ramdas himself.
right.
That's what. There he was, and this is what I was feeling. So I wound up becoming close to him and hanging out with him as much as I could,
Yeah.
and I realized gradually it was a painful time too because he was at the same time he was radiating Maharaji, he was also he was having his own issues about life, let's just say.
Mm,
And so
mm,
there was this, it would be great, and then he would get angry or something, or he
hmm.
would be open and sweet and loving, and then he would shut down and be critical of you and nasty. So there was this strange thing going on. So gradually I realized that, wait a minute, it's coming through him. He showed us a picture of Maharaji, a little black and white picture. That's all I saw.
Mm. Mm.
So, but I realized as time went on that it's coming through him and that it's Maharaji coming through him. And then I decided I had to go to India to meet the Guru. So,
and at first, I mean, I think your destiny like hung on a thread, right? Because you didn't get the address. He wasn't allowed to give you the address for. I mean, the Maharaji we were talking of Neem Karoli Baba. Right? Yeah.
He wasn't even supposed to be talking about him. His instructions were, Maharaji said, "Don't talk about me."
Right.
But he couldn't help himself, And he had this jewel, and his natural inclination was to share it with people.
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
and in the end, one way or another, you have to read the book, everyone. But you found Maharaji, and you spent years there, right? A few years there.
He let me stay 2.5 years.
Yeah.
He literally he got my visa extended. Otherwise, I would have been sent home after a 1.5 years, or even more. But anyway, he got my visa extended and let me stay. And then a couple of months before the visa was up, he looked at me and he said, "You go back to America. You have attachment there. You have to go."
You must have been devastated. Yeah.
What? What? I have no idea what he was. What did he mean I had attachment there? I left everything. I gave my jeans away. I sold my car. I sold my guitar. I had maybe one little cardboard box in my mother's basement of, I don't even know what. I had no intention of ever going back to America when I left America. When I went to India, in my heart, I didn't say that to my parents, but
was it always the experience when you were there? Did you, from the moment go, when you met him and you were in India, did you have doubts, or was it, or when you were there, it's just like, yes, I'm never going back, happy, completely?
Oh, yeah. No, I was completely at home in India.
Really? Right.
Absolutely at home. I loved it. I felt, in fact, in those days, the plane landed, then you had to walk on the runway to the building,
Yeah.
So I remember getting out of the plane and my foot hit the ground and I went, I'm home. And I realized I never had that feeling in my life before. It was, whoa. And it was just like, that's the way it was for me in India. I was at ease everywhere. I really, still, except now I'm old and cranky, but aside from that, India, is my home.
When was that? What year? And where was the ashram exactly?
Well, Maharaji's temples are up in the north of India. Most of them are in UP, Uttar Pradesh or Uttaranchal, which is the state kind of north and northeast of Delhi, around Delhi and northeast of Delhi. That was 1970. I think I arrived August 1970 in Mumbai. And we had met Baba Muktananda on the way to India. We had stopped in England. In those days, you could find these really cheap flights, but it was one step at a time. So we got to England, and then we found another cheap flight, but it wasn't for a week. So we were just hanging around. And Muktananda was on his way to the US for the first time. And he was in London. So we met him there. Me and my friends, we met him there. And he said, he was very sweet to us. He said, when we walked in the room, he said, "These boys aren't English." I don't know what he meant, but anyhow, so.
We probably got better teeth.
What's that?
Yeah. Probably got better teeth, I'd say.
Yeah.
He looked a bit healthier probably at the time. Better teeth, just better
teeth, healthier, maybe
physicality, yeah. And then when you were with Maharaji, when you first met him, what was the experience like, and what was it? I mean, obviously the book tries to convey what it can, but what was it like? I mean, the feeling of being in his presence, I think, was so profound that you just that everyone wanted just to be in his presence all the time, right? And half the time you weren't allowed to be, right? You were sitting kind of over the ways and waiting to be called up to sit with him, right? Why did you? I mean, like for normal people, normal in inverted commas, what was it about sitting with some Indian older guy that was so special, right? If you could try and elaborate on that.
If you could, in your imagination, imagine what it would feel like when you really felt exactly how you really want to feel, whatever that is, the feeling of being home, of being happy, being loved, being free. That's what it was like sitting with him. It was beyond that also. I mean, he led us into the room where love lives, and it was all free. There was no manipulation. Nothing was required. You didn't have to clean the temple. You didn't have to wash toilets. All you had to do was breathe and live. Nothing was required of you. You were loved as you are. You were accepted as you are. There was no trying to change anybody. It was a whole different ballgame than what most people consider spiritual stuff.
Yeah. And he didn't speak English, though, did he?
He spoke whatever he wanted to speak, but it appeared it appeared he didn't speak English. But there's stories of him sitting under a tree with two German guys for like 2 hours talking, and they didn't speak Hindi, and he didn't supposedly speak German, so he was speaking German to them. I mean, and when the translator would be translating a question to him,
you'd be correcting it.
I would be telling the translator the question. I'd finish talking, and then Maharaji would answer the question without the translator saying anything.
Right.
That happened all the time. He was overflowing with miracles and joy and happiness and depth of being. I mean, there was total trust also, which is such a rare thing in relationships with people. There was no question. This guy knew everything. He was the king of the universe. He was totally taking charge, everything. You had nothing to worry about. It was that kind of experience. And it's remained that for 50 years, by the way. I mean, that never changed for me. And for most of the first group, or for anybody who considers himself this devotee of Maharaji, your life is not your problem. It's his.
I could talk to you hours about him, but we'll talk a bit about chanting in terms of Maharaji suggested you do it, or did he lead you into it?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Not doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, my accent.
Well, we Well, first of all, as foreigners in a foreign country who wanted to get closer to Maharaji, we would look at what the Indian people did, who were his devotees. And we noticed that they treated him as if he was Hanuman himself, the monkey god himself, that he was God himself. And Maharaji himself would build Hanuman temples wherever he had quite a few, not quite a few, but maybe, I don't know, at the time, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 temples around northern India. Small, simple little temple, not big, fancy things. So we heard about this hymn called the Hanuman Chalisa. So I had the idea, I thought, well, if we learn this, we could sing it to him, and not only will it give us a way of entering, we'll be able to spend more time with him, because that was our goal in life. That's all we wanted to do, was sit and stare at him, because how it is when you fall in love. Remember the first couple of days when you fall in love with somebody, you don't want to take your eyes off them. You don't want to be away from them for a second. And that's what it is. still after 50 years, that feeling, you don't, you know, unfortunately, our karmas and the habits of thought and our stuff takes us away and keeps us busy in the world. So spiritual practice is the practice of coming back to that place. So we learned to chant because we wanted to be with him. And that means inside or outside. Because now, where is he? We can't go sing to him in a physical body, but his presence, the love is within us. And so the chanting, and he said, from going on repeating these names, everything is accomplished. What more do you want? That's a fucking guarantee.
Yeah.
But do we believe it? And with how much of our hearts do we actually believe that? Maybe 2%, if we're lucky. But he said it. It's true. But still, how much time do we spend doing what we should be doing? Our own stuff prevents us. It's amazing. It's so extraordinary. But karmas keep unfolding, and I suppose most of us have the feeling that we're getting closer to that presence, to that love as time goes on. Hopefully it's not a delusion. You never know.
And how did it transpire? You went to the studio and you asked them, or I can't remember that part. You asked them whether you could chant there, and then they said you can chant for like 10 minutes or something before we start the yoga, and then they went away.
Yeah.
And then at the time they went away, you started chanting for an hour or something.
Yeah. Well, they went away. So for like quite a while, a couple of months, every Monday I would sing for like, I guess 15 minutes or so, and then they would do their Q&A with their student. There were only 10 people there.
Right.
And then I arrived one day, and usually there were 3 pillows put out in the room for me and David and Sharon. So, but this day I get there and there's just 1 pillow, and I said, well, where's their pillows? And the woman who ran the center said, oh, well, they left for India. Oh. So I just sang for like 3 hours. Every Monday I would just sing. And then after, they were gone quite a while, actually. They were gone 3 or 4 months at least, I think. Maybe a while. So I remember I came and they were there and said, oh, hey, how you doing? Great, you're back. That's good. So I started singing, but I forgot they were there. And I was singing for like 45 minutes or so. And I went, oh, shit. And I looked over at them like this, and they looked at each other and went, okay. So Mondays became my day, and every Monday I went and I sang, and
people into it.
People started showing up. There was there was no publicity or anything. The word spread, and there were lines around the block. The place was filling up. It was amazing. So that's how it all started. Then I thought, well, I need to be singing with people. That's what I want to do and should be doing. So why don't I make a CD of chanting so people will know what it is? It'll be like a calling card. That's all.
Yeah.
Otherwise, how do they know what it is? So we made the first CD, and it went everywhere in the world.
It's so weird, isn't it?
This was all Maharaj's play.
Yeah.
It went everywhere. Every yoga studio in the world was playing it almost.
Yeah.
And I got invitations. I started getting invitations to come sing here and sing there, sing there. It all started. People ask me all the time. They say, how do I bring my chanting to people? I said, how the fuck do I know? I had nothing to do with this,
But did you have to practice a lot, or did you have to learn new ones, or
no? I just started singing.
So you knew them all from back ways.
Well, when I first started singing with people, I sang what I had been singing in India, because we sang a lot.
Yeah.
But as
Yeah.
time went on, being in America, my my sanskaras were like Long Island punk, not punk, but like garage band rock kind of sanskaras. So the chant started to change naturally. I wasn't thinking about it. I had no plan, but new melodies started to come to me, but they were more basic to my nature as a Westerner.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so the chant, it just naturally took its own shape. Because I never studied Indian music. It's really,
Mm.
it's a great art. I mean, it's one of the most subtle art forms,
Yeah.
but it's a lifetime thing, a lifetime. And I was just too busy chanting. I wasn't really interested. I wish I could have learned, but I didn't want to stop what I was doing to learn something. So it was kind of the way it happened. And here we are.
What do you think about when you chant, and has it developed? Have you has it developed? Have you changed since you started doing it again? What have you what is your
Oh,
experience of it?
absolutely. I mean, now it's since '94, I'm singing with people pretty much.
Mm. Mm.
And it's been the most transformative uh, opportunity or practice that in my life. Um, I see the path as a ripening process, really much more than a learning process. I'm not, I'm not like a Tibetan scholar, or I don't study all the scriptures. I don't, learn all the,
Mm.
yeah, I don't have, that's not who I am. I'm a devotee of Maharaji, and I want to sing to him, and I want to sing to that love. So I just sing. But the way I see it is that the chanting is like bringing your heart out into the sun of love. And the chants are like the rays of that sun ripening our hearts. And it's a natural process because these chants, these mantras, these names, as they call, they are powerful. They have potentiality. They have shakti. And they're
Mm.
good only for one thing, eventually bringing you to the realization of your own soul, your own true nature. So through the repetition of the name, gradually but inevitably, that place within us is uncovered. That love within us is uncovered, and we move more deeply into ourselves. And it's not just a personal experience like a drug experience where, well, that's not even accurate. So let's just say it's not just like this is what I'm feeling. I'm feeling this ecstasy. This is so great.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
not like that.
Mm.
What it is, it changes the way you see the world.
Mm.
It changes the way you experience everything and everyone, including yourself.
Mm.
It's it's like the sun rising after the dark night of the soul. Everything looks different when the sun rises, and the higher it rises, the less shadows there are, and the more accurate things look.
And that's what you're feeling. I mean, maybe I'll rephrase that question more specifically when I say what you're thinking when you chant. Is that what you're feeling when you chant all the time? Or sometimes do you get on stage and just think, really, I'm not up for this tonight?
You don't understand. I share the practice the same way I do it, which is you chant, and when you notice you're not paying attention, you chant. Nothing more is required. When you notice you're thinking about something, you let it go and you come back to the chant. People ask me all the time, what do you experience? And I say, how the fuck do I know? I let it go like, 300 years ago, or I let it go, when I was chanting. I didn't write it down. I don't know what I was. I just let it go and I come back to the name.
Right, right.
What we need to do is develop the ability to be here and stay here and live in this present and presence.
Mm.
We don't need to be taking notes on how stupid we are. We know how
Okay.
stupid we are. We
Yeah,
don't need to
it's
prove
true,
it to
true.
ourselves.
Very true. Here's a stupid question. Here's a stupid question.
I'll give a
Um,
stupid answer, no problem.
yeah, yeah. All right. What's your best concert and your worst concert?
Hasn't happened yet.
Come
I
on.
learned that from a jazz guy. Somebody said,
Yeah.
you've been playing for 75 years. What was your greatest concert? And he
Yeah. Yeah.
said,
Oh, right. Okay. Okay.
hadn't happened yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're all, who's to judge? I have no idea. Sometimes I'll think, whoa, it really felt heavy tonight. In
Right. Right. Right.
retrospect, and then I get like 500 emails saying this was
Yeah.
the greatest experience of my life. So who the fuck knows? How would I know? I just forget it. I sing, I go home, I watch
Right.
TV, I get up and I sing again. That's all. It's not my
And
business to
you
worry
must have
about that.
you must have a playlist, right? You must come. You just do the same thing every time, or do you do different bhajans, different pujas, kind of depending on the mood?
Once again, there's no plan. But
Right.
remember, it's a deepening process. So you get, there will be some basic group of chants that I might be doing more regularly for a while. And then another one will come in and one will drop out, or,
Right.
there's, yeah, or something will just come to mind. I don't really think about it. But like just last night, uh, was it last night? Yeah, last night. Thursday nights, I sing every Thursday night for
Mm.
2 hours or so and take some questions every Thursday night, 7
Right.
o'clock New York time. So I
Okay.
started singing, and then I just, some chant popped up in my head. So that's what I did next. I didn't, you know, I'm just trusting. I guess if you had to think about it, you would just say, I'm just trusting the process. I'm not
Mm.
I'm not driving the car. I'm just letting somebody else drive who knows how to drive, and I'm just along for the ride like everybody else.
So you've never like prepared your voice or done any
Well,
kind of
actually,
yoga to make sure that you're all limber and ready for it?
well, yeah, yes, definitely. And it's, after 10 years of singing with people, I was losing my voice. So
Mm.
I
Mm.
had to actually learn how to sing.
Mm. Mm.
I went to an opera singer who taught me how to use my voice
Yeah.
in a way that wouldn't rip it up.
Mm. Mm.
And it's good to warm up the voice a little bit. And as far as asana practice, that's what I do to stay alive, I mean, and pranayama and asana. I look upon that as for the body. I don't really think of it as the way things are. I mean, for me, it's more of a physical
Mm.
well-being practice. I don't really think of it so much as uh, quote unquote spiritual practice. But my teacher, Siddhima, who was Maharaji's great disciple, she told me
Mm.
to do pranayama, so I do it every day. I don't do it for any special reason, like to make sure I can. I do it essentially to stay healthy, and I like to keep singing with people as long as possible
Yeah. I'm sure
before they have to wheel me
people
around.
appreciate that. What's your okay? What's your finally? What's your feeling of spirituality? What does spirituality mean for you in daily life?
It's becoming a good human being,
Great.
And becoming more aware of other people and what they're going through, and recognizing that it's not all about me, and that my state of mind is not the most important thing in the whole fucking universe.
Mm.
Because if we don't think about ourselves, then those thoughts don't arise anywhere. We're free.
Mm.
So that's what a good human being is: someone who cares about other people and tries to do whatever they can to alleviate suffering wherever it is. And we have enough of our own also to work on. So like I said, the chanting changes the way you live in the world. It changes the way you see yourself and others. It's not just that, okay, this was a very blissful chanting experience. Wow, this was really spiritual. No, it's not like that. It gradually, your subjective version of the world, because everything we're looking out, we're looking at a mirror. When we think we're looking out at the world, but actually we're looking into a mirror and we're seeing our subjective version. You know, I think my beard's a little long. I better cut my hair. I better put some moisturizer on. You know, but we're seeing that out there. So as you chant, as you do these practices, spiritual practice, not just chanting, of course, what you see changes because it's less your version and more factual. What's really out there? You know, what's really happening there? Because then you're not really even seeing, well, anyway, your subjective version and your attachment to me and identification with your thoughts and stories about yourself, that gets, the glue that holds you to that gets thinned out through practice. So you may get depressed, and instead of it lasting for a year, it lasts for 2 months. It works like that. It works under the radar. It doesn't, you can't know. Like Ramana Maharshi said, he said, asking the mind to kill the mind or the ego to kill the ego, it's like asking the thief to be the policeman.
Yeah, that's excellent.
There'll be a lot of investigation, but no arrest will ever be made.
Yeah. So that was a great quote in your book. Finally, fine. What advice would you give for anyone on this path, or what advice would you give to a younger self of on the path? Right? Is there anything you would say as a parting shot, as it were?
Well, I don't know. The advice I'd give to my younger self would be, would you chill out, man? What the fuck is wrong with you? Shut up, relax, take it easy. Don't obsess so much, you know what? But, for other, I would just say, go for it and don't give up, because, as an older person now, you start to think about leaving the body and what that's going to be like. And, they say the only thing you take with you when you leave the body is your state of mind and the practice you've done. So when you're younger, you don't live in that reality. You still think you have lots of time left to do this and that. And it's a very interesting conundrum. So I would say live fully, go after the things you want, get the things you want, but keep your eyes open and recognize that nothing you get from the outside will ever make you happy for more than a minute. So try to plant the seeds of what you really want in life. So.
The biggest spiritual moment, epiphany, biggest a moment in your spiritual path. Can you pick a moment?
For me, that's really simple. In 1995, 6 months after I started chanting with people, I quit because I saw that I couldn't do it from the right place, and that I was a hungry guy for all kinds of things, and I was going to use all this energy that was starting to come to me to feed myself. And I saw not only was that not good for me, but I was going to hurt other people as well. And thirdly, this is not why I started chanting, to devour other beings and devour this energy for my own personal. I started chanting to find Maharaji's hand again. I had let go of his hand. He had never let go of my hand, but I had let go of his, and I needed to find that. So after 6 months, I saw what was happening. I saw what was going to happen, and I was horrified that I recognized that I am not able to do this. So I quit and I went back to India, and I started badgering him. Of course, he's already been gone 20 years. So I'm badgering him. I say, this is your problem. I'm singing to people in your name. Fix it or I don't sing. Good night. That's the deal, you know. He tortured me for 3 months. Nothing happened for 3 months. And then at the end of 3 months, just before I was having to leave and come back to America, I was in total despair because I was being prevented from doing the one and only thing that I could do to save my ass. I was being prevented from doing it by me. So how do you get around that? Everywhere you go, you can't. That's why I was saying to him, I can't do this. You have to change this. It was I was really in terrible despair because what if I couldn't chant it? What if I couldn't do this? I was going to be fucked up the rest of my life. And there was no out. There was nothing I could do about it. I was the problem. So on that day, on June 15th, 1995, actually, which is the day of this big celebration at the temple in Kenchi where I live, he changed everything. He changed it. And he showed me what it all is. He changed me. He showed me that it had nothing to do with me, even if I thought it did. And even when I thought it did, it didn't affect the reality of the situation, which was whatever you want to call it. I mean, the reality of the situation is that it wasn't my ego doing this. There was some other power actually transmitting when I chant, but it wasn't me. And so even when I thought it was me, it didn't ruin the situation. And that's what freed me. But saying it like that there's no way I can transmit the depth of the experience. I mean, it was a life-changing experience. Everything in my life before that was one way, and everything in my life after that was another way.
Right. Yeah, you do. I mean, you do convey it in the book, so people have to read the book to get the experience. All right. Well, I know. I mean, finally, I know you were into drugs before, but give me a more sanitary, guilty pleasure that you still hold on to now. Something that you enjoy everyday life.
I like to get a whole box of cookies, put it in a big cup, pour oat milk into it.
No, you don't. Seriously?
Mash it all up and eat it watching some serial killer video on television. Yeah, that's it.
You're kidding me, aren't you? We never know. We'll never know whether he is or isn't. I'll leave it there.
Okay.
Right. Thank you for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Nice to meet you. Take good care.
Yeah.